Well, good afternoon. Welcome back to Northern Maine Productions. This is going to be part 3 of a video series that I'm going to be doing on a Snapper 30083. That's a 30083 actually machine that I'm working on here. I've got it torn completely apart. Now, in the first video I just showed you this machine when it was complete, and it was missing some parts off it. It was missing the handlebars and some of the steering linkage, and some of the clutch parts were missing off in it too. So I went out back and dug through my scrap pile, and I actually did find, I found all the pieces to the steering, luckily. The bushings are missing, but I don't care. I'm going to get new bushings for it because the old ones were pretty well worn out, and they're 40 some years old now, and they're all brittle and hardened up anyway. So, but I discovered I had another part out there that I brought in the workshop to take a quick look at, because this is going to be a little bit of a game changer for this build. So we've talked about these bushings here, these plastic bushings. This is a pivot where the center bar hooks into the rear section. And as you can see here, there is some wear, which, you know, that's not such a big deal. But the problem is these plastic bushings are obsolete. They don't make them anymore. And jumping, that's a crying shame, because these things fit the same machines for what, 30 years probably anyways. But I discovered that I still had another part out here that I forgot about. This is from a Series 5 machine. Now, quickly looking here, you'll notice that one does not have those plastic bushings in it. This is from a 42-inch machine. This is from a 4211. It's a 4211 5XS or X5S. This is an extra tough machine. This was a big machine. This had the big 42-inch deck on it. 11 horsepower engine that's on that machine there now. I thought that I'd thrown this away, but I didn't. Thankfully I didn't. So what this has got a barrel that goes clear through it. And you'll also notice that it has a grease fitting on it. So the rest of this is identical. I compared it side by side to this other piece here, and there's only a little minor difference in this piece here. And this was actually, I think this just had it was a little bit of a different design. This is a lighter duty design actually, but this one, I do have the pieces that go to this. I did find them. So that's a no-brainer. I'm going to use this piece here when I put this thing back together. That's an absolute no-brainer. It's identical in every way. That's the only major difference right there, is that. And that. Now these, I think Jim's Fix-It Shop has talked about this before. These can be problematic too, and I'll tell you why. If you let these things sit outdoors and get rusty, the tube will actually seize into this. It is imperative that you clean that thing out and polish that tube all up, and make sure you keep it greased. So that's an awesome find. I'm glad I found that. And as you can see, if I put a heat gun on this thing, you can actually take the old decals off in there. So even though this decal here is not in particularly great shape, I'll put the heat gun to it and peel it off there, and I'll reapply it on here with some new glue. That's a no-brainer. That way, I'll have the model numbers. Now I've dug around here, I found the yoke parts. Now this is that piece that goes in that back section right here. This bolts on in there, and that's just a guide for this. And there's a rod that's missing from this. It was actually missing from this machine. And it's actually missing from there too, because it's in that machine over there. I do know that for a fact. So when I blow this one apart, I'm gonna take the rod out of that one and put it back in here. This old mower here is about mowed its last grass, I believe, for now. So I know you're probably all thinking I'm crazy to do this, but it's like I stated before in the previous video. If I'm going to go through all the hassle of doing this, I'm going to build this machine so that it will take every possible part from the 30083, and I'm going to make it a 30083. So if you get online and order parts for a 30083, you get parts to fit this stupid thing. Not like that. That thing there is a hodgepodge. So I do have the correct clutch hub to go on that other chain case right there. I got a whole pile of stuff here. I've even got a correct exhaust pipe to go on an 8-horse engine, but I'm not going to need that. This has got a good exhaust system on this. So this is looking better. I did find these old yokes here. This one is actually the original one out of that machine there. It's worn out bad, as you can tell. But this one has got some wear, but it's never been repaired. Now I can probably repair that quite easily. Now the other issue with this yoke right here is right there. It's worn some right there. Now I have fabrication skills, so there's no doubt that I can clean that up and weld that back in and shape it to fit that back. It fits right in here. Let me see if I can show you how this goes in there. Now there are some plastic. I have to get down on the floor to get to this. This sets in there, and then just like that. So that's how that works. And you know, obviously that's a pivot point right there, so that needs to be repaired. These holes are all in good shape in this. Now I think I just said that, but there's actually some plastic pieces that go in here too with these, and I'm going to order brand new ones because I'm done fighting with these things when they don't drive right. I found another curious thing here in my parts pile. We talked about this hex shaft bushing in the last video and how pitted and rusty it is. This is the original one from this differential. If you look very closely down in there, well, you can see that there's a brass bushing on each end of that, inside of that tube. It's just pressed in there. I found this in my parts pile that I took out of it's come out of an old 28 series machine, probably a series 5. It looks brand new. There's almost no wear at all on that gear. The problem is, there's no bushings in the stupid thing. Neither one of them are in there. I looked at that and I was, geez, I didn't take them out of that stupid thing. So evidently somebody replaced that part and put it in there and never put the friggin' bushings in it. I bet that worked really good. So, there's a lot of cleanup here to do. I've made quite a mess of this workshop trying to find all these pieces and parts. But yeah, this looks promising, I think. I think that this is actually going to be able to be put back together and turned into a good lawnmower. Now this tube, this is the original front tube from that machine, and there is no wear on that at all. That is nice condition. Now I know you're wondering, why don't you just fix this machine up here? It's because if I want to fix this machine up, I basically got to tear it completely apart just like that, because this back section, this back part of the frame is all worn in here, and these holes are all worn out in here where them blade hangers ride, and I'm pretty sure that both parts are worn really bad in here too, where that center pivot is. I had this apart at one time, and I believe that center bar, that center tube on this thing had some wear on it. This thing is extremely loose. I'm gonna set you guys right over here for a minute. I think I can maybe show you guys just how loose this thing is. So yeah. Of course, that affects the deck height, it affects the belt alignment, it affects the way it cuts grass, and it feels horrible riding on it. The machine feels all loose and sloppy and all worn out, which for all intents and purposes it is worn out. The motor runs excellent on that. That's the original engine off from that Extra Tough machine that I scrapped out a few years ago. I would have preferred to have kept that Extra Tough machine because they're really rare, but there was nothing left of the deck on that. The deck was completely rotted right out on that. So I'm looking forward to building something here that might actually be decent, you know. Even my 3081's got quite a lot of wear in it, and that's still a nice working mower. It still mows really good. Motor's worn out, but so I was digging through my parts pile here, and I did find the original carburetor that goes on that motor, and the air filters here, and that's the carburetor that came off from that. Obviously I took it apart because it was all friggin' screwed up. It'd been full of water and the float was ruined in it. But I believe the body is probably salvageable. You have to be cleaned up. I'll tell you one thing, that one's a lot cleaner than the one was on this 11 horse engine. This one was really bad when I dug this thing out of the junk pile. I cleaned the carburetor I think twice on that before I got it right, you know, got it so that it ran good. And, geez, it's run perfect ever since. I haven't had any more issues with the carburetor on this. But yeah, this will be a fun and exciting little project. I like doing stuff like this. If I could actually get stuff together that's going to make this really good. You know, this is not going to be a weekend deal where I'm just going to throw it all together and run it. No. I've done that plenty of times and I'm tired of doing that. I want to actually clean this one right up and prime it and paint it and make it look nice again. I'm pretty sure that I've got enough tires here to probably put on this that are good too, which would be pretty nice. But that's a pretty exciting find right there. I'm glad that I hung on to that. That's going to be a whole lot better deal than what I had. And well, I suppose I don't know what else I'm going to do here today, but probably not much. Y'all have a good one. Bye bye.